She woke up screaming. At first, Brooke Taylor thought she was still dreaming. The pain in her right eye was so intense, so sharp, it felt surreal, like someone had driven a red-hot spike through her skull. Her hands flew to her face instinctively. That's when she realized something was terribly, horrifically wrong. Her eyelid was huge. It didn't feel human. It pulsed under her fingertips like it was alive, swollen to the size of a small egg, stretched tight and burning hot. She staggered out of bed, crashing into the dresser, knocking over a bottle of micellar water and a hairbrush. Her heart was pounding. Her breath came in shallow gasps, and when she opened her eyes, only one eye actually opened. The left, the right, nothing. No light, no color, no shapes, just darkness. "Oh my God," she whispered. "Oh my God, I can't see." She lurched into the bathroom, flipped the light switch, and stared at the mirror. And then she screamed again. Her face looked split in two. The left side was perfectly normal. The girl who had 500,000 views just last week on a skincare routine video. Flawless skin, soft waves of blonde hair, light freckles on the cheekbones. The right side looked like a horror movie prosthetic gone wrong. Her eyelid was grotesquely distended, deep purple and black around the edges, ballooning out of the socket like some alien growth. The skin was stretched thin and shiny like plastic wrap about to burst. She couldn't even see her eyeball anymore. Just the bulge of it pressing forward under the lid, threatening to break through. Brooke swayed on her feet, her vision blurred, not from her blind eye but from panic. She gripped the bathroom sink with trembling hands. What the hell had she done? Megan, her roommate, came running from the other side of the apartment. "Brooke," she yelled, barefoot on the cold tile. "Are you okay? I heard." She froze when she saw Brooke's face. "Oh my God. What happened to your eye?" "I can't see," Brooke choked out. "I can't. Oh God, it's black. It's just black." Megan grabbed her keys and phone without another word. "We're going to the ER. Now, can you walk?" Brooke nodded, barely, but her knees buckled the moment she stepped away from the sink. Megan caught her, slung an arm under her shoulder, and guided her out the door. The drive to Cedars-Sinai took 17 minutes. Brooke counted every second by the hammering pulse in her head. The streetlights outside were blinding through her good eye, but from the right, still nothing. The pain was getting worse. She could feel something pushing from inside her skull. A pressure that didn't belong. Megan parked illegally and half-dragged her through the sliding doors. The nurse at triage took one look at Brooke's face and called out a trauma code before she even finished checking her ID. They wheeled her back immediately. Machines beeped. Voices shouted. Dr. Michael Langford leaned over her, calm but intense. "What happened?" he asked. And that was the moment Brooke Taylor, beauty influencer and TikTok star, broke down. I popped a pimple," she sobbed, "on my eyelid. With a sewing needle. I just wanted it gone. I had a brand shoot this week, and I didn't think it was a big deal." R. Langford looked like he'd heard a lot of crazy things in the ER, but this one knocked the air out of him. "You may have a severe orbital infection," he said gently, already pulling on gloves. "You may be at risk of losing vision permanently. If the infection spreads deeper, it could threaten your life." Brooke's lip quivered. "It was just a bump. I understand," he said. "But now, we need to act fast." They prepared her for emergency imaging. And 4 antibiotics. Brooke lay on the hospital bed shaking. Her hands clenched the sheets. Her heart raced burr. He was supposed to be filming a Get Ready With Me today. She was supposed to go live tomorrow for her new eyeliner promo. Instead, she was blind in one eye. Possibly forever. And this was how it all began. Brooke Taylor had built her entire identity around being flawless. Not smart, not funny, not even kind, though she tried to be all of those things when she could. No, what made her popular, what paid her rent, and bought her ring lights and iced matcha lattes, and rent-controlled luxury apartment in West LA, was her face, more specifically, her skin. People didn't follow Brooke Bareface on TikTok because they wanted realism. They followed because they wanted to believe in perfect skin, in poreless cheeks and seamless under eyes and eyeliner sharp enough to slice judgmental comment sections in half. They followed for escapism. And Brooke delivered, every single day. Daparsha filmed Get Ready With Me videos 5 mornings a week, skincare routines every Sunday, and brand content whenever the checks cleared. She'd grown from a 19-year-old community college dropout in rural Texas into a recognizable name in the beauty space. Not A-list famous, but niche famous, the kind of girl who gets recognized at Erewhon. The kind of girl who gets offered a $15,000 sponsorship deal from Lumea Beauty to promote their new eyeliner series. That eyeliner was supposed to be the biggest moment of her career so far. A 3-part collaboration, including exclusivity rights and in-store video ads. A big deal. Maybe the biggest, which is why she noticed the bump. It was Tuesday morning. Sunlight flooded her apartment windows in a warm gold glow. She was halfway through filming a morning routine video when she saw it, just barely. A tiny white dot on her right eyelid, right at the base of her lashes. Brooke paused mid-eyeliner stroke and leaned into her mirror. There it was. Small, round, white, raised. Almost imperceptible to the human eye, but her ring light picked up everything, especially texture. Her heart started to thump. No. She dipped a concealer brush into her pot, tapped lightly, and blended. The bump was still there. She tried adjusting the camera angle. She tried changing lighting. She even tried skipping the eyeliner altogether and doing a soft glam look instead. But it didn't matter. The bump showed through everything. She stopped recording. A familiar anxiety curled in her stomach. That low, humming panic that she knew too well. The kind that whispered, "You're not allowed to mess up. Not now. Not when everyone's watching." She grabbed her phone and Googled, "white bump on eyelid." Results flooded in. Milia, sty, chalazion. Most common causes? Blocked oil glands, irritation, buildup. All relatively harmless. Treatment? Warm compress, gentle massage. Absolutely do not squeeze. Let it heal naturally. Give it a week. A week? She had brand content due in 3 days. Filming to do today. She clicked into Reddit threads, TikTok dermatology accounts, tried to find a loophole. Nothing helpful. Behind her, Megan wandered out of the bedroom, yawning in her oversized scrubs. Brooke barely looked up. "I think I'm gonna cancel my shoot today," Brooke muttered. Megan blinked at her, bleary-eyed. "Why?" "I have a lump. On my eyelid." Brooke turned, pointing toward her face. "Can you see it?" Megan walked over, leaned in, and squinted. "Barely. But it shows up on camera." Megan shrugged. "Then don't use that angle. It's probably a sty. Just give it a few days." "I don't have a few days," Brooke snapped, then instantly regretted her tone. "Sorry, I need this deal to go through. It's a big one." "I get it." Megan softened. "But it's not worth freaking out over. You're the only one who can see it." Brooke didn't respond. She was already pulling out her skincare stash, toners, salicylic pads, exfoliants. Looking for something, anything, that could smooth that bump down in 24 hours. Megan poured coffee and leaned against the counter. "Remember Haley Knox?" she said casually. She just posted a GRWM talking about how some influencers fake their skincare routines and get work done. Pretty sure she was talking about you. Brooke tensed. Why would she say that? Because she's jealous. You're blowing up and she's stuck doing sponsored toothbrush ads. Brooke said nothing, but a pit of shame opened in her stomach. Haley had always been competitive, ever since their early days in TikTok beauty. Brooke had tried to stay neutral, never clapped back, never subtweeted, but Haley never missed a chance to throw shade, especially when Brooke landed the Lumea campaign and she didn't. Brooke turned back to the mirror, examining the bump again. It hadn't grown, but it hadn't gone away either. It just sat there, like a defiant white flag on her eyelid, mocking her. Had if Haley saw the bump and used it against her. Had if fans noticed and said her skin wasn't real. Had if Lumea backed out. Why, late afternoon, Brooke had canceled filming. She spent hours trying home remedies. Warm tea bags, ice cubes, green tea serums. Nothing worked. That night, alone in her room, she sat cross-legged on the floor, staring into her magnified mirror. Her ring light illuminated every detail. The bump was still there, and it was brighter now. Shiny, poppable. Brooke reached toward her desk drawer. Inside was a tiny sewing kit, one of those travel-sized ones with 2 needles, a threader, and a mini pair of scissors. She took the needle out, held it up to the light. It looked clean enough. Should she sterilize it? She hesitated, then shook her head. It would just be a quick pop, 2 seconds, in and out, nothing to worry about. She washed her hands, took a deep breath, and leaned in. In the world of beauty, the line between control and chaos is very thin. She was about to cross it. The needle slid into her skin faster than she expected. For a split second, Brooke felt a weird sense of satisfaction, like she'd taken control of the problem. The tiny bump on her eyelid had mocked her all day, and now she was doing something about it. She pressed gently, trying to stay steady, her elbow anchored against the vanity for balance. But the eyelid skin was thinner than she'd anticipated. Much thinner. The moment the point broke through, she knew she'd gone too deep. A sharp, electric sting shot through her eye socket. Her hand jerked reflexively. The needle pierced further than she meant it to, and her whole eye spasmed. She pulled back with a gasp. Shit! Tears flooded her right eye instantly. It was the body's natural defense. Flush out the trauma. But it didn't help the searing pain that radiated through her lid and into the bridge of her nose. Blinking rapidly, Brooke leaned toward the mirror again. There was now a tiny hole where the bump had been. A small amount of white material had emerged, along with a smear of clear fluid and a pinprick of blood. She grabbed a tissue and dabbed gently. Her eyelid throbbed. It wasn't a clean pop like she was used to on her cheeks or chin. This had felt wrong. Deep. Like she'd hit something she shouldn't have. Still, the bump was gone. Technically, flattened at least. She reached for her rubbing alcohol and poured some onto a cotton round, then hesitated. It was probably a bad idea to put alcohol near her eye. But what else was she supposed to use? She tapped the damp cotton gently against the lid. The pain exploded. Like acid, her whole eye burned. She yelped, dropped the cotton pad, and staggered backward. Okay, wrong move. She splashed cold water on her face instead, trying to rinse the sting away. It helped a little, but her eyes still felt raw, angry, betrayed. She took a few deep breaths and forced herself to stay calm. It was fine, just irritation. She'd poked a hole in delicate skin, that's all. It would settle down. Her body just needed a little time. Brooke grabbed an ice pack from the freezer and held it against her eye as she lay down. The throbbing dulled slightly with the cold. She took 2 ibuprofen and tried to scroll through TikTok like nothing had happened. What even as the For You page filled with flawless faces and glass skin routines. Her mind kept circling back to what she'd just done. T was just a needle, just a bump. It had to be okay. He told herself that until she fell asleep. Next morning, her eye felt puffy. Not painful exactly, just off. Rook sat up slowly, blinking against the morning light. Her right eye felt heavier than usual. When she reached up to touch it, her fingers met soft, swollen skin. He shuffled to the mirror. Eyelid was visibly puffy. The skin around the puncture site was pink, and the area was definitely warmer than the rest of her face. He applied a cold compress, then concealer. The concealer didn't stick well. It slid off the swelling, but she convinced herself it looked manageable. She filmed a short, lazy day skincare video, carefully keeping her face angled away from the camera so her right eye barely showed. Later, she reviewed the footage. The swelling was more visible than she'd hoped. She tried editing, cropping, adjusting the brightness. Still too obvious. She didn't post it. By lunchtime, the puffiness had spread slightly toward her brow bone. Her eyes still teared up from time to time, but she brushed it off as irritation. She used a warm compress this time, thinking it might help draw out whatever was left. When Megan came home from her hospital shift, she immediately noticed, "Brooke, what happened to your eye?" Brooke waved it off. "It's fine. I popped the bump." "With what?" "A needle. It was clean." Megan stared at her. "What kind of needle? Just like a sewing needle." Megan set her bag down slowly. "Did you disinfect it?" Brooke hesitated. "I mean, not technically. But it looked clean." "Brooke, I was careful. Your eyelid is swollen. It's just inflamed. I probably irritated it too much. It'll calm down." Megan sighed and walked over. "Let me see." Brooke leaned her head back. Megan examined her eye gently, but the moment her fingers touched the area around the puncture, Brooke flinched. "That hurts? A little." Megan frowned. "If this gets worse overnight, I'm dragging you to urgent care." "It won't. You don't mess with infections near your eye. The blood vessels here connect directly to your brain. You know that, right?" Brooke looked away. Megan didn't push it further, but she watched her with concern the rest of the evening. That night, the throbbing returned. It wasn't sharp, not yet. Just a dull, steady ache that made it hard to focus on anything. Brooke tried watching a movie, tried replying to DMs, but her right eye kept tearing up and her head felt foggy. She took more ibuprofen and applied an ice pack. The swelling hadn't gone down. If anything, it seemed a little worse, but she didn't want to worry Megan. And she definitely didn't want to go to a doctor just to be told she had irritation from a bad decision. So she brushed her teeth, turned off the lights, and went to bed. It took hours to fall asleep. Every time she shifted positions, the pressure around her eye flared. She lay on her left side, pillow under her cheek, breathing through the pain. Around 1 a.m. she finally drifted into restless sleep. Her dreams were weird, disjointed. She dreamed of needles, of her face melting in front of the camera, of people in the comments section laughing, pointing. At some point, she dreamed that her eyeball was swelling so much it popped out of her head and rolled across the vanity like a marble. She woke with a start. Sweat clung to her skin. Her mouth was dry, and her eye, oh God, her eye was on fire. Brooke sat up slowly, heart racing. The right side of her face felt hot. Swollen, wrong. She reached up and touched her eyelid, and nearly screamed. It was enormous. She scrambled to the mirror in the dark, turned on the light, and froze. Her right eyelid had swollen to nearly double its size. The skin was shiny, purple, and stretched like overinflated rubber. The lid was so puffy it had sealed shut completely. No lashes, no crease, just flesh. She couldn't open her eye. She tried. Willed the lid to lift. Nothing. And worse, she couldn't see anything. Not light, not color, not even a sliver of movement. The panic rose instantly. She backed away from the mirror, shaking. "I can't see," she whispered. "Oh God, I can't see." For a moment, Brooke forgot how to breathe. Her right eye wasn't just swollen. It was monstrous, grotesque, a distorted version of her own face staring back at her, with a kind of sickening unfamiliarity. The lid was so enlarged, so unnaturally inflated, it barely looked like human skin anymore. It was stretched tight, angry and purple, glistening under the bathroom lights. But none of that compared to the terror clawing at her chest. She couldn't see. Nothing. No shapes. No flicker of brightness. When she waved her hand in front of her face, there wasn't even the faintest shadow. Her vision was gone. Her breath hitched. Her throat tightened. A buzzing filled her ears, the kind that comes right before passing out. She reached for the counter to steady herself, but her hands trembled so violently she could barely grip the edge. "Okay," she whispered, though her voice cracked. "Okay, think, Brooke." But thinking was impossible. Her mind was a frantic storm of panic, noise, and all the worst-case scenarios she'd ever read online. Blindness, permanent damage, brain infection, death. She stumbled backward, bumping into the doorframe, and collapsed to her knees. Tears streamed from her left eye in a hot rush, blurring whatever was left of her vision. "Megan!" she screamed, or tried to. It came out broken, strangled. "Megan!" The sound of footsteps thudding against the hardwood floor echoed down the hallway. A second later, Megan burst through the door, hair tousled, still half asleep. Oh my God. She froze mid-step. "Brooke." Jesus Christ. Brooke held her hands in front of her, shaking uncontrollably. I can't see. I can't see anything." Megan dropped to her knees beside her and cupped the uninjured side of Brooke's face. "Hey, look at me," she said gently. "Look at me with your left eye," Brooke tried. Megan's face swam into view through tears. "How long?" Megan asked. I woke up like this," Brooke stammered. It hurts so bad I can't open it. I can't see, Meg, please, I can't see." Megan swallowed hard, trying to maintain composure, but Brooke could see fear flicker behind her friend's eyes. "We're going to the hospital," she said firmly. "Right now." Megan didn't waste a second. She ran to grab her keys, phone, and a hoodie for Brooke. Meanwhile, Brooke stayed on the bathroom floor, fighting the urge to throw up from the pain and panic. Her heart raced in her chest. Her skin felt too tight. Her breathing came in short, shallow bursts, like she couldn't get enough air. She pressed her palm gently against the swollen mass where her eyelid used to be. It felt hot, feverish, and painfully taut, and beneath the swelling she felt something else, pressure, a deep internal pressure pushing forward as though something inside was expanding, forcing its way out. A sickening sensation, like her eyeball was being squeezed from behind. She recoiled instinctively. This can't be happening. It was just a stupid bump, a tiny bump. Megan returned and helped Brooke to her feet. Every slight movement sent spikes of pain radiating through her temple and jaw. Brooke leaned heavily on Megan as they made their way down the hallway, through the living room and out the front door. The early morning air hit her like a slap, cold, sharp, and unforgiving. Megan guided her gently into the passenger seat of her car, buckled her in, and slammed the door. Inside, Brooke's world felt like it was shrinking. The darkness in her right eye wasn't just visual, it was psychological, terrifying, suffocating. It felt like being pulled into a void she couldn't escape. Megan slid into the driver's seat, started the engine, and sped out of the parking garage with reckless urgency. "Stay awake," she said, glancing over every few seconds. "Talk to me." Brooke curled forward, pressing her forehead against the cool window. The pain pulsed with every heartbeat. "I'm scared," she whispered. "I know," Megan said. "It's gonna be okay. We just have to get you help. Do you think I'm going blind?" Megan hesitated, too long, before answering. "We don't know anything yet. Let's just get you to the ear." Brooke bit her lip to keep from crying again. She couldn't shake the feeling that something inside her eye was wrong at a fundamental level, like something had ruptured, or was swelling uncontrollably. Every bump in the road sent fresh jolts of agony through her skull. By the time they reached Cedars-Sinai, Brooke could barely sit upright. Megan parked illegally near the entrance, jumped out, and ran around to Brooke's side. She helped her out of the car, half carrying her toward the sliding doors. The reception nurse glanced up, expecting a routine case, until she saw Brooke's face. "Oh my God," the nurse said, pressing a button on the desk. "Trauma to room 4, now." Brooke was rushed into a wheelchair and pushed through a maze of hallways, her surroundings blurred together. The fluorescent lights above seemed to flicker violently through her good eye. Pain, darkness, fear. The world had narrowed to those three sensations. Inside the trauma room, nurses swarmed around her. Someone fitted a blood pressure cuff. Someone else clipped a pulse oximeter to her finger. A third nurse started prepping her arm for a fourth. Brooke clutched the edges of the gurney. Trembling, "I'm going blind," she whispered. "Please, I don't want to go blind." A calm voice spoke from beside her. "Brooke, I'm Dr. Michael Langford. I'm going to take care of you." She turned toward the voice, though she could only see him with her left eye. He was tall, composed, with a steady gaze and the kind of calm one can only learn after years of emergencies. "I need to look at your eye," he said. "Is that okay?" "No," Brooke cried. "It hurts. Please, don't touch it." "I know," he replied softly, "but I have to. We need to figure out what's happening." He approached slowly, like one might approach a wounded animal. When he gently placed his gloved fingertips near the swollen eyelid, Brooke screamed, not just from pain, but from the horrific sensation of pressure deep inside her eye socket. Dr. Langford pulled back immediately. "All right," he said to the nurse beside him. "Let's get a CT scan stat, and start broad-spectrum 4 antibiotics now. She may have orbital cellulitis with proptosis." The nurse nodded and hurried out. "Orbital what?" Brooke's voice shook. Dr. Langford crouched next to her, meeting her eye level. "It's a severe infection behind your eye," he said. "It's pushing your eye forward, which is why it feels swollen and why you can't see." Brooke stared at him, heart collapsing inside her chest. "Am I going to lose my vision?" "We're going to do everything we can to prevent that," he said. "But this is serious, very serious. Infections in this area can progress fast and can become life-threatening if untreated." Life-threatening. Death. The words echoed in her skull, louder than the monitor beeping beside her. Her lips trembled. It was just a bump. It was just a stupid little bump. Dr. Langford didn't scold her, didn't shame her. He simply placed a steady hand on her shoulder. "Right now, the most important thing is that you're here," he said, "and we're going to move quickly." A nurse returned with a gurney for transport to imaging. "Hang on, Brooke," Megan whispered as she squeezed her hand. "I'm right here." Brooke closed her left eye, the only one she could close, and took a shaky breath. Her world remained dark on the right, and for the first time she feared it might stay that way. The hallway leading to the CT suite felt endless. Brooke lay on the gurney, trembling beneath the thin hospital blanket, as two nurses wheeled her down the fluorescent-lit corridor. Her good eye remained half open, fighting the dizziness and the waves of pain that radiated through her skull. The other eye, if she could even call it that, was sealed under swollen flesh. "Try to keep your head still," one of the nurses said gently. "We'll get you scanned as fast as we can." Brooke nodded weakly. She could barely hear anything over the pounding in her head. Her heartbeat throbbed behind the swollen lid like a drumbeat counting down to something terrible. She had always imagined hospitals as clean, clinical, controlled. But tonight, Cedars-Sinai felt like a battlefield. Bleak, chaotic, urgent. Patients cried in distant rooms. Alarms beeped. Stretchers rushed past. Nurses shouted for medication, for vitals, for backup, and here she was, in the middle of it, blind in one eye because of a stupid needle. The irony made her sick. When they reached radiology, the CT technician approached. A man in his 30s with tired eyes and a calm, practiced voice. "All right, Brooke, we're going to get a scan of your orbits and sinuses. It'll help the doctors see what's happening behind the eye." I can't open it," she whispered. "You don't need to," he said. "Just try to stay as still as possible." They transferred her from the gurney to the cold CT table. The room smelled faintly of disinfectant and metal. The machine loomed overhead, a large white circle humming with low mechanical noise. She swallowed hard. "Is this going to hurt?" she asked. "Not physically," he said. "Just hold still." He placed a small foam wedge under her neck to keep her head aligned. The table slid forward with a mechanical whir. The machine began rotating around her head, emitting soft beeps and low droning sounds. Brooke clenched her hands. Every heartbeat sent a fresh surge of pressure behind her swollen eye. "Don't cry," she told herself. "Don't move. Don't make this worse." She forced herself to breathe through her mouth, long and slow, even though nausea clawed at the back of her throat. The scan lasted only minutes, but it felt like an hour. When it was done, the technician slid her out and offered a reassuring nod. "They're rushing the images to the ER. You're in good hands." She wasn't sure she believed that. Not when her world was still half dark. Not when her eye felt like it might explode at any moment. The nurses wheeled her back to the trauma room, where Megan stood waiting, arms crossed tightly, face pale with worry. She hurried to Brooke's side the moment they entered. "How was the scan?" Brooke didn't answer immediately. She was too drained. "It didn't hurt," she murmured. "But I still can't see anything." Megan squeezed her hand, trying to stay strong. "We'll figure it out." A moment later, Dr. Michael Langford returned, a tablet in hand, his expression serious, more serious than before. He approached the gurney and pulled the curtain partially closed, creating a small cocoon of privacy. "I have your CT results, Brooke." Her throat tightened, her fingers curled unconsciously around the blanket. What does it show?" Dr. Langford took a careful breath. The kind doctors take when they're about to give news that isn't simple. "There is significant inflammation behind your right eye, a lot more than we typically see in standard infections." Brooke's stomach dropped. "The swelling is pushing your eye forward," he continued. "It's called proptosis. That's why it feels like your eye is bulging. The infection has spread into the orbital tissues." Brooke felt the room blur at the edges. She gripped the rails of the bed. "Is that why I can't see?" she whispered. "Yes," he said gently. "The pressure is compressing your optic nerve. If the pressure continues, or if the infection worsens, there is a risk of permanent vision loss." The word permanent punched the air out of her chest. "But," he added quickly, "we're intervening early. We've already started you on powerful 4 antibiotics to slow the infection. We're also calling in an ophthalmologist, Dr. Sarah Levin. She's one of the best. She'll evaluate whether we need to perform a surgical drainage." Brooke blinked through her tears. Her voice broke. "Surgery? On my eye?" "Only if necessary," he said. "But right now, our priority is stopping the infection from spreading." "Spreading where?" she asked shakily. He hesitated, just a fraction of a second, but she noticed. "To your sinus cavity," he said. "And potentially deeper." "How much deeper?" Again that pause. "To your cavernous sinus," he said quietly. "A major vein near your brain." Brooke felt her entire body go cold. "So I could—" "You're in the right place," he interjected firmly. "We're acting fast. You did the right thing coming here." She didn't feel like she'd done anything right. Not when the mistake had started with a needle and vanity and fear of losing a contract. Not when she was lying helpless in a hospital bed with half her world gone dark. Dr. Langford straightened. "I'm admitting you to the ICU," he said. "You'll be closely monitored, and Dr. Levin will examine you as soon as possible." Megan stepped forward. "Thank you, doctor." He nodded and left to update the chart. As soon as he was gone, Brooke broke. Her breath escaped in a rush she couldn't control, and she sobbed, a deep shaking sound that racked her entire body. Megan wrapped her arms around her, holding her as tightly as she could without touching the swollen side of her face. "I'm so scared," Brooke cried. "Meg, I can't see. What if it never comes back?" "We're not there yet," Megan said, voice trembling. "You're strong. You're going to get through this." Brooke didn't feel strong. She felt stupid, reckless, fragile. She felt like a little girl playing dress-up in a world that demanded perfection, and now she was paying the price. An ICU nurse arrived to prepare her for transfer. They inserted another 4-line for fluids, checked her vitals again. The numbers didn't look good. Heart rate high, blood pressure fluctuating. As they rolled her out of the ER, passing other patients in open exam rooms, Brooke watched the ceiling tiles drift by like passing clouds. Everything felt surreal, distant, like she wasn't really in her body anymore. The ICU doors opened with a mechanical hiss. Inside, machines beeped steadily. Nurses whispered. Patients moaned softly in nearby beds. The lights were dimmer here, but the air felt heavier, full of gravity and fear and the sense that everyone in this unit was fighting for something big. The nurse settled Brooke into her new bed, attached her to monitors, and hung a series of 4 bags filled with antibiotics she couldn't pronounce. "We'll take good care of you," the nurse said softly. Brooke nodded, though she didn't feel reassured. She felt the weight of everything she had ignored. Every warning sign. Every article that told her not to pop anything near her eyelid. Every time she'd chosen beauty over caution. Now beauty had landed her here, in the ICU, blind, with a future she could no longer clearly see, in every sense of the word. As the nurse dimmed the lights and adjusted her blankets, Brooke stared into the darkness of her right eye. It stared back, still, silent, and terrifying. The ICU was nothing like the movies. There were no dramatic shouting matches or clashing heart monitors, no flashing red lights, just a quiet hum, constant beeping, and the oppressive stillness of people trying not to die. Brooke lay in the sterile room, a curtain drawn halfway around her bed. Every breath echoed inside her own head. Her 4 lines trailed like vines down her arm. She couldn't tell if her gown was itchy, or if her skin was just reacting to the layers of sweat and anxiety. Outside her room, nurses spoke in hushed voices, cartwheels squeaked across the floor, and another patient down the hall was sobbing. Not screaming, just soft, exhausted sobbing. It blended with the rhythmic chirps of monitors into a kind of awful lullaby. Her good eye was open, fixed on the ceiling. Her bad eye throbbed like a living thing. Time passed strangely here, measured not in minutes but in lab draws and medication rounds. Twice now they'd forced her to sit upright to take oral steroids, each time triggering waves of nausea. Her vision in the right eye was still completely dark. She tested it again now, covering her left eye gently with one hand. Nothing, no light, no shapes, no flickers. She had gone from a beauty influencer with a $15,000 eyeliner campaign to a patient in intensive care, half-blind and terrified. She wanted to scream, to cry, to punch something, but she was too tired for any of it. At 2:42 a.m., the door clicked open. A woman in blue scrubs and a white coat stepped inside, checking her tablet. Short brown hair tucked behind her ears, minimal makeup, sharp but empathetic eyes. The name tag read, Dr. Sarah Levin, Ophthalmology. You must be Brooke. Brooke nodded weakly. I'm Dr. Levin. I was called in to evaluate your condition and determine the next steps. I've reviewed your scans, and I'd like to do a full ocular assessment now, if you're able. Brooke shifted slightly in bed. I can't open it. I know, Dr. Levin said gently. The swelling is significant. I'll need to use a lid speculum to hold the eyelid open so I can see the eye underneath. Brooke flinched. Will it hurt? It won't be comfortable, Dr. Levin admitted. But we'll use a numbing agent to reduce the pain. We need to know what's happening behind the lid. It's the only way to determine whether you need surgical intervention. Brooke looked toward Megan, who had returned to sit quietly in the corner. Megan gave a small, tight nod. You've got this, she said softly. Dr. Levin moved quickly and efficiently. She applied drops to numb the eyelid and waited for a few minutes. Then she unwrapped a sterile kit and lifted a gleaming metal device that looked like something out of a torture film. This is going to feel strange. If at any point it's unbearable, tell me to stop. Brooke gritted her teeth. Just do it. Dr. Levin placed the speculum gently at the corner of her swollen lid and began to insert it. The skin resisted at first, taut from the swelling, but the device slowly pried the lid open, revealing the inflamed eyeball beneath. Brooke screamed. not from pain exactly, from the sheer terror of the sensation. Her eye forced open, raw and bulging, exposed to the air. The pressure sent white-hot lightning bolts through her skull. Her hands clenched the bed rails until her knuckles went white. Megan covered her mouth in horror. Dr. Levin remained calm, focused. She leaned in with a magnifying loupe and a pen light, inspecting the cornea, the conjunctiva, the sclera. She murmured clinical terms under her breath. Hazy corneal surface, severe chemosis, proptosis approximately 7 millimeters. Brooke tried to breathe. She tried to stay still, but every nerve in her face was screaming. Dr. Levin's expression darkened slightly as she examined the optic disc with a handheld scope. Pupil response sluggish. There's compression on the optic nerve, but no necrosis yet. She leaned back slowly, removed the speculum, and the lid slammed shut like a bear trap. Brooke whimpered in relief. Dr. Levin stripped off her gloves and sat down. "Brooke, I'll be direct. The swelling behind your eye is more severe than we expected. The infection is causing an inflammatory response that's affecting not just your eye muscles, but the optic nerve itself." "I can't see," Brooke croaked. "There's just nothing." Dr. Levin nodded. "That's because the nerve is under pressure. If that pressure isn't relieved soon, the damage could be permanent." Brooke felt her stomach churn. "So, surgery? Maybe," Dr. Levin said. "But there's something else." She paused, choosing her words carefully. "On your CT, we noticed a pocket of fluid behind the orbit that didn't quite behave like pus or inflammation. It looked denser." Brooke's mouth went dry. "What does that mean?" "It could be an abscess, or it could be something else. Possibly a mass. A benign tumor, maybe. We won't know until we do an MRI." Brooke stared at her. "You think I had a tumor before all this?" "We don't know," Dr. Levin said. "It could be a pre-existing lesion that became infected. Or the infection could be masking something else. It's rare, but not impossible." "A tumor?" That word echoed in her head like a gunshot. She thought this was about a needle, a pimple, a bad decision. Now, "A tumor? I thought this was just an infection," she said, voice cracking. "It is," Dr. Levin assured her. "You absolutely have orbital cellulitis. That's undeniable. But we're seeing some irregularity in the imaging that raises concern. That's why I'm ordering an MRI, stat. We need to know exactly what we're dealing with." Brooke could hardly process the words. Infection, abscess, tumor, optic nerve compression, permanent damage. Her heart thudded violently in her chest. Not from panic, something deeper, existential. "Could this kill me?" she whispered. Dr. Levin didn't sugarcoat. "If the infection spreads to your cavernous sinus or brainstem, yes. That's why you're in the ICU. That's why we're acting fast." Brooke looked down at her hands, at her 4 lines, at the oxygen monitor clipped to her finger. Her career had been built on appearance, on detail, winged eyeliner, highlight placement, camera angles. None of it mattered now. "I should have just gone to a doctor," she muttered bitterly. "It was just a white bump. I thought I knew what I was doing." Dr. Levin's tone softened. "You're not alone. I see this more than you'd believe. People performing at-home extractions with dirty tools, influencers using DIY filler kits, even some trying to dissolve eye bags with illegal creams. Most don't end up in the ICU. You were unlucky, but also, this infection moved fast." Brooke blinked back tears. "I didn't even know an eye infection could go to the brain." "Most people don't," Dr. Levin said. "But it can. The venous drainage in your face is unique. It connects directly to deep structures. That's why we always say, never pop anything in the danger triangle." Brooke stared at her, confused. "The what?" Dr. Levin made a triangle with her fingers, forehead to the corners of the mouth. "From here to here, infections can spread rapidly to the brain. The eyelid is particularly dangerous. Thin skin, high vascularity, and close proximity to the orbit." Brooke felt sick. "No one tells you that on TikTok," she muttered. "Bar." "No, they don't," Dr. Levin said. "But they should, Bar." He stood, "Bar. I'll check back after your MRI. In the meantime, try to rest. The next 12 hours are critical. We're monitoring your vision constantly." As she left, Megan returned to Brooke's side, eyes wide. "Bear. Babe, a tumor, bear. I don't know," Brooke whispered. "I don't know anything anymore, bear." He closed her one working eye, but all she saw was darkness. "Bar. Inside and out. Minutes between medical scans and results are not real time. They stretch, distort, become something otherworldly. Brooke had never known how loud silence could be until she was forced to wait for the MRI results. He lay motionless in the bed, her face still lopsided by the grotesque swelling of her right eye. Her vision was still absent on that side. No shapes, no flickers, only black. Her mind churned with what-ifs and regrets, looping like static. Had the damage already been done? Was the darkness permanent? Was there really a tumor behind her eye? Or was this just the price of one stupid, desperate moment? When the door finally opened, Dr. Levin returned, flanked by a second physician Brooke hadn't seen before, a man in his 50s with salt and pepper hair and surgical scrubs. His ID badge read, Dr. Alan Kessler, Oculoplastics and Orbital Surgery. Brooke sat up slightly, her pulse spiking. Megan stood and instinctively grabbed her hand. Okay, Dr. Levin said gently. We've reviewed your MRI. There's no tumor. Brooke's chest heaved. No tumor, she repeated, voice shaky. So it's, what, just infection? Not just infection, Dr. Kessler replied, his tone serious but calm. The scan showed a loculated abscess forming behind your right eye, a pocket of infected fluid. That's why the swelling hasn't improved. The antibiotics can't penetrate that space effectively. Brooke looked from one doctor to the other. So what happens now? We need to drain it, Dr. Kessler said. Surgically. Tonight, a cold wave of fear crashed over her. Surgery, like, around my eye. Behind it, he corrected. The words hit her like a punch. Isn't that dangerous? It's very delicate, yes, he said. But you're already in a high-risk situation. The abscess is compressing the optic nerve. If we wait, even a few more hours, we may lose the chance to save your vision. Worse, the infection could spread deeper, into the cavernous sinus or the brain. Dr. Levin added, We've seen orbital cellulitis patients lose not just vision, but their lives if it spreads. You're stable now, but that can change quickly. Brooke tried to swallow. Her mouth was dry. Her heart raced. You'll be under general anesthesia, Dr. Kessler continued. The approach will be transconjunctival, through the lower lid, not cutting your face. We'll insert a drain to relieve the pressure. It's minimally invasive, but high stakes. I've done this hundreds of times. Brooke looked at Megan. Her best friend's face was pale, eyes glassy with concern, but steady. Do it, Megan said. You have to. Brooke nodded slowly, but inside, she was screaming. She had never had surgery before, never been under anesthesia, never thought that one impulsive, thoughtless moment in front of her bathroom mirror would land her here, facing a literal risk of blindness or brain infection. I don't want to die, she whispered. You won't, Dr. Levin said, her voice resolute. We're acting in time, but we have to go now. The next 20 minutes blurred. Consent forms, blood draws, explanations of risks and possible outcomes, partial vision loss, complete vision loss, even enucleation, the loss of the entire eye. In the worst-case scenario, each time they mentioned it, Brooke felt another part of herself collapse inward. A nurse came to prep her for transport. An anesthesiologist reviewed her history, asked about allergies, reassured her gently. They started another 4-line for the sedation meds. Cold liquid ran through her veins like melted glass. The hallway to the OR felt like an eternity. Megan walked beside the gurney, holding her hand until they reached the swinging doors. I'll be here, Megan said, choking on her own voice. When you wake up, Brooke nodded, too dazed to reply. Inside the operating room, the lights were blindingly bright. Machines beeped steadily. A nurse clipped a blood pressure cuff to her arm. Another placed ECG leads on her chest. Everyone spoke in calm, purposeful tones. Brooke tried to focus on a single tile on the ceiling to keep from panicking. The anesthesiologist leaned over her. You're going to feel a little drowsy in just a moment, Brooke. Just breathe normally. We've got you. Brooke whispered one last prayer into the ether, and then the world disappeared. She woke up in pieces. First, the sound, monitors, shuffling feet, a nurse calling someone's name, maybe hers, then the pain, dull but deep, like someone had scooped behind her eye and left a crater, and then the fear, still there, still waiting. Brooke? She blinked, slowly. Her left eye fluttered open. The right, not yet. Megan's face appeared above her, blurry but smiling. You're okay, Megan said. You're out, you did it. Tears slid down Brooke's temples without permission. She wanted to speak, but her throat was raw. The oxygen mask smelled like plastic and fear. Dr. Levin appeared a few minutes later, looking tired but pleased. "The abscess drained well," she said. "We placed a small stent to continue draining fluid. You'll be on 4 antibiotics for several more days, but the optic nerve is decompressed. That's the most important part." "Did you save my vision?" Brooke croaked. "We don't know yet," Dr. Levin said honestly, "but you have a chance now. That's more than you had 12 hours ago." Brooke nodded weakly. Over the next 24 hours, the post-op haze lifted gradually. Her eyelid remained heavily swollen, but the unbearable pressure had eased. Pain was present, but manageable. And then came the first test. Dr. Levin returned the next morning to check for light perception. "Brooke," she said gently, "I want you to cover your left eye. Tell me if you see anything from the right." Brooke reached up slowly with trembling fingers, covered her left eye. She stared ahead, afraid. Then, faintly, something. A glow, a whisper of light. "Wait," she said. I think I see something. Like brightness." Dr. Levin smiled. "That's good. It means the nerve is functioning. We'll do more tests later, but this is promising." Brooke burst into tears. She wasn't whole, she wasn't healed, but she wasn't blind, not yet. The days that followed were a strange limbo: hourly eye exams, 4 antibiotics, steroids, nausea, headaches, waking up not knowing what day it was. And then, insurance forms, paperwork, calls to her content agency explaining the delay. Silence from the brand that had offered her the $15,000 eyeliner campaign. Her deal was terminated. At night, she stared at the ceiling of her ICU room and thought about every second that led here. The mirror, the bump, the ring light. The need to be flawless, to be seen, the stupid, filthy needle, and the dark, heavy truth. She'd done this to herself. One decision, one moment of vanity and pressure. And now she was here, scarred, half-blind, uncertain of everything she once believed about beauty and success. And for what? Likes? Followers? Validation? She thought of all the young girls following her TikTok, watching her makeup tutorials, soaking in every step she made. ND, she knew. When she got out of here, she wouldn't go back to pretending burr. Oh, more perfect filters. Oh, more skincare hacks. Bar. Oh, more silence about the real cost of chasing online perfection. Discharge day didn't feel like a victory. It felt like being released from a war zone with nothing but bruises and unanswered questions. Brooke sat on the edge of her hospital bed. The familiar scent of antiseptic already burned into her memory forever. Her right eye was still swollen, though less grotesquely so. The drain had been removed 2 days ago. Now, a thin scar traced the corner of her lower eyelid like a tear that never fell. Dr. Levin had been clear. Recovery would take time, and the final outcome wouldn't be known for months. Her vision was improving slowly, but it was fragile. She'd scored 20/70ths on the eye chart with her right eye, barely good enough to read a street sign. Her depth perception was off. Her right eyelid drooped with a medical term she'd learned to hate, ptosis. She would need steroid eye drops for the next 6 weeks, regular follow-up with ophthalmology, physical therapy to help retrain her eye muscles, and an acceptance, however reluctant, that her face would never look exactly the same again. The nurse came in with discharge papers. Brooke signed them slowly, her hand trembling. She didn't feel ready to face the world outside, but the hospital needed the bed, and insurance had already started pushing back on the length of her stay. That's how the system worked. "You okay?" Megan asked gently, helping her gather her things. "I don't know," Brooke whispered. "Am I?" The Uber ride back to her apartment was a strange blend of silence and city noise. Brooke wore oversized sunglasses not for style but to hide the visible asymmetry on her face. The swelling had gone down, but the difference between her eyes was impossible to miss. One lid lifted naturally, the other drooped like a shadow refusing to rise. When they reached her building, she hesitated, before stepping out. Megan noticed. "You don't have to go up alone," she said. Brooke nodded. Inside the apartment, everything looked exactly the same. Her soft lighting setup, the makeup desk, the mirror framed with bulbs, the ring light. All untouched. She moved toward the mirror like it was a weapon. Megan stood back silently as Brooke reached up and removed her sunglasses. She stared. The face that looked back wasn't someone she recognized, not fully. Her right eyelid still held swelling. The scar was subtle, but she knew exactly where to look. The eye itself seemed tired, slightly off-center. Her once perfect symmetry, the one she had so carefully preserved for every tutorial, every close-up, every sponsored post, it was gone. And it wasn't just cosmetic. When she tried to apply eyeliner with a steady hand, she couldn't. The scar tissue along the lash line made the skin uneven. The lid sagged slightly, altering the shape of the crease. Her vision in that eye made the application blurry. She tried anyway. The wing of her liner came out shaky, jagged, wrong. She wiped it away with frustration and saw blood on the cotton. The scar was still healing. Brooke dropped her hand, her breath catching in her throat. Her face flushed with heat. "Damn it," she whispered. Megan stepped forward. "Brooke, I used to do this with my eyes closed," Brooke said bitterly, blinking back tears. "I used to be able to draw a perfect line in under 10 seconds. Now I can't even trust my hand, or my eye, or my face." She turned away from the mirror. "I'm ruined." "No," Megan said firmly, "you're different, but not ruined." Brooke shook her head. "My entire brand was built on being flawless. That's literally why people followed me. They don't want truth. They want perfection in 60 seconds or less. Then maybe it's time to change what your brand stands for." Brooke laughed, a short, hollow sound. "Tell that to the brand that dropped me. $15,000 gone. No apology, no second chance, just a polite email saying, 'We've decided to go in another direction.'" She moved to the kitchen and opened the pile of mail Megan had left on the counter. Among the bills, there it was. Cedars-Sinai Medical Center. Patient statement. Total charges, $47,310. Insurance adjustment, negative $36,100. Amount due, $11,210. Brooke stared at the number until her vision blurred. "Are you kidding me?" she said in disbelief. "Over 11 grand. I can't even see straight, and I owe $11,000. Megan glanced at the paper, her expression tight. "You can fight some of it. Apply for hardship relief," Brooke scoffed. "They'll still want their money eventually. America, the only place where you nearly go blind trying to look beautiful, and then go bankrupt trying to fix it." She dropped the paper on the counter and collapsed onto the couch. Megan sat beside her. "You're not alone, Brooke. We'll figure this out." Brooke stared at the ceiling. "What if this never gets better? What if my eye stays like this forever? What if my career's over?" Megan hesitated, then asked gently, "Then what do you want your story to be?" Brooke blinked. "What? You can let this break you, or you can own it. Tell it, use it, help people. Maybe that's what your story was always meant to be." That night, Brooke couldn't sleep. The pain was dull but persistent. Her eye itched under the scar as it healed, but it wasn't the physical discomfort that kept her awake, it was the questions. She picked up her phone, scrolled through her TikTok inbox, bar, hundreds of DMs, bar. "Where are you, bar? Are you okay, bar? Girl, did you get surgery? You look different in your last post, bar. Miss your content, bar. Come back, bar." He hadn't posted in 3 weeks. He opened her front camera and looked again. No filter, just her bar. ND for the first time. She hit record. Her voice trembled at first, but she didn't stop. "Bra. Hi. It's been a while. I want to tell you the truth. Not the pretty version, not the influencer version. Just the real one, bar." He paused. "I tried to pop a bump on my eyelid with a sewing needle. Because I had a brand deal coming up. Because my eyeliner wouldn't go on smooth. Because I thought perfection was more important than health. Bar. Her voice cracked. It wasn't just a pimple. It was a serious infection. Orbital cellulitis. The kind that can kill you or leave you blind. I spent a week in the ICU. I almost lost my right eye. I might never see clearly again." She turned her face slightly, showing the scar, the drooping eyelid, the asymmetry. "This is what social media doesn't tell you. That pressure to look flawless? It can ruin you. Literally. I did this to myself for content that never even got posted." She looked into the lens. "I'm not making this video for sympathy. I'm making it because if even one person sees it and decides not to pop that bump, not to cut that corner, not to risk their health for a highlight reel, it's worth it." She ended the recording and hit post. Then she sat there in the silence, heart pounding, afraid of what the world would say. Brooke didn't expect the video to go viral. She didn't expect anything at all, really. She posted it at 2:13 a.m. and went to bed thinking she might delete it in the morning. But by 8 a.m., Her phone was already overheating from the notifications. 1,400 comments, 22,000 likes, 180,000 views, and climbing. By noon, the number had jumped to over 1 million. The comment section was a flood of shock, empathy, and, surprisingly, gratitude. "Oh my God, this happened to me, but not as bad. Thank you for sharing this. I was literally about to pop a sty last week. Never again. I have a bump on my eyelid right now. Canceling the tweezers. Thank you." This is the kind of content influencers should be posting. Raw, real, brave. Among the crowd, a few trolls predictably emerged. "You just want attention. Looks like karma for being vain." This is why people hate influencers. But Brooke didn't feel attacked. For the first time, she felt heard. The scar on Brooke's eyelid had faded slightly, but it would never vanish, even after the corrective surgery. Paid in full thanks to her followers' support, the right side of her face remained subtly asymmetrical. Her eyelid drooped just a little more. Her eye didn't open quite as wide. Her gaze, in photos, no longer looked completely centered. But she had stopped editing that out, because she had changed. Not just on the surface. 6 months had passed since the ICU. 1 year since the needle. Time moved strangely in trauma's aftermath, sometimes slow, sometimes in a blur. But healing had not been linear. Some mornings, she still woke up startled, forgetting for a split second what had happened. Then she'd catch her reflection, and the memory would rush back. But the panic had dulled, the grief had softened, and the shame had turned into something else entirely: purpose. Brooke now traveled monthly to speak at high schools, universities, and medical conferences. She wasn't just a guest anymore. She was invited. They introduced her not as influencer Brooke Allen, but as patient advocate, digital health educator, and beauty industry whistleblower. At one conference, she stood backstage watching a presentation on facial symmetry in social media, and how filters were rewiring self-image in Gen Z. The speaker quoted her video. Brooke had to smile at that. Once upon a time, she obsessed over getting every eyeliner wing to match. Now she was part of a national conversation about what beauty even meant anymore. One day, she got an email from a teenage girl named Daisy. The subject line, "You saved my eye." Daisy explained she had almost done the exact same thing. She had a bump on her lower eyelid and was about to pop it. Then her older sister showed her Brooke's viral video. She watched it, twice, then told her mom, who made a doctor's appointment. It turned out to be a sty. Already infected. They caught it early. Antibiotics cleared it up in a week. No ER, no swelling, no scarring, just a lesson. Delivered in time. "I know you've probably gotten a million messages like this," Daisy wrote. "But I just wanted you to know you changed my life." Brooke cried when she read it. Not a sobbing kind of cry, but the quiet kind, the kind that lives behind the ribs and comes out when the pain finally has somewhere to go. Her content had shifted, but it hadn't disappeared. She still posted weekly videos, only now they were part beauty, part awareness. She still did makeup, just slower, softer, with more room to breathe. Sometimes she'd zoom in close to her scar and say, "This is what I see first every day, and I've learned to thank it." She talked openly about self-worth, trauma, perfectionism, about how online praise could be as addictive and dangerous as criticism, about what it meant to lose something and still find yourself on the other side of the fire. And when people asked what the worst part of the experience was, she always answered the same. It wasn't the pain, she'd say. It was how fast I went from thinking a 2-millimeter bump could end my career to almost losing my eye. The real horror wasn't what happened. It was what I believed before it happened, that my face was the only thing that made me valuable. She kept that needle, the one she'd used that night. She didn't keep it out of self-punishment. She didn't display it on a shelf or lock it away in a drawer either. It stayed in a small velvet pouch inside her nightstand, next to a photo of her with Megan at the hospital, and a folded piece of paper with the ICU discharge summary. Every now and then, when things got overwhelming, when work deadlines piled up, or she caught herself obsessing over a blemish again, she would sit down, open that pouch, and hold the needle in her hand. It was a reminder of what she almost lost, of what she had gained, of how easy it is to slip into perfectionism, and how hard, but necessary, it is to crawl back out. Brooke still had good days and bad days. There were moments when her reflection felt unfamiliar. There were photo shoots where lighting caught the shadow under her right eye just wrong, and the comments came flooding in again. Some trolls were still out there, Cruelty hadn't gone extinct, but her audience had changed. They were no longer just fans of a face, they were supporters of a journey, a story, a woman, a voice. On the 1-year anniversary of the incident, Brooke recorded a video she called What Remains. It was quiet. Just her, no makeup, in soft, natural light. She looked into the camera and said, 1 year ago, I woke up thinking I was blind. 1 year ago, I couldn't see anything out of my right eye, and I couldn't imagine ever facing the world again. But now I know. You don't need perfect vision to see what matters. You don't need perfect skin to be worthy. And you don't need a perfect face to be beautiful. She paused. This is what remains. I'm still here. Not flawless, but fully, and finally, real. The video ended with her smiling, eyelids uneven but eyes clear. One scarred, one whole. Both open. Somewhere in a quiet apartment, a teenage girl hit pause on that video and breathed easier. In a hospital classroom, a resident pulled up Brooke's case study on a tablet. In a boardroom, a marketing team met to revise their influencer contracts, adding clauses about mental health support. And in thousands of homes across the country, people learned, maybe for the first time, why you should never pop a bump on your eyelid. Brooke's story didn't go viral because it was shocking. It stayed viral because it was true, because it hurt, because it healed, because it made people stop scrolling long enough to remember they were human. And in the end, what remained wasn't the pain. What remained was the lesson, and a woman who had the courage to tell it. Over the next few days, the video spread beyond TikTok. People shared it on YouTube, Instagram, Reddit. Our story appeared in reaction videos, stitched posts, and health forums. A doctor on YouTube broke down the medical condition, using her case as a textbook example of orbital cellulitis caused by unsafe DIY beauty practice. And traditional media picked it up. A local news station reached out, then a daytime talk show. Morning America sent an email. Y wanted to do a segment on social media pressure and the hidden dangers of cosmetic self-treatments. Borough hesitated. NG Public meant showing the world her new face. On camera, no filters, no scripts. Company, LD she do it? Company, LD she be the face of imperfection, and own it? For me. Anne looked at her over coffee one morning. This is your second chance, she said. Most people don't get that. Baroque took a breath. Bartheth. Anne said yes. The studio lights were hot. The cameras intimidating. But the moment the host leaned forward, looked Brooke in the eyes, not just the good one, and asked, "What made you post that video?" Brooke felt something click. She told the story again, this time with poise, with clarity, with tears she didn't hide. The segment aired the next morning. 10 million viewers. Her inbox flooded. An ophthalmologist from Johns Hopkins wrote her, a mother from Oregon, a teen from Alabama, a nurse in Minnesota who wanted to use her video in a high school health class. And then came the brands, but not the usual suspects. No flashy cosmetics or overnight serums. Instead, it was eye health nonprofits, medical podcasts, mental health advocacy groups, and even a startup working on affordable access to ophthalmic care for low-income communities. One nonprofit, Real Faces, Real Stories, invited Brooke to be part of a campaign focused on redefining beauty beyond filters and perfection. The campaign would feature individuals with scars, medical conditions, and facial differences telling their stories unfiltered. They wanted Brooke on the poster. At first, she couldn't imagine it. A close-up of her eye, her drooping lid, her scar, her imperfect symmetry. But then she thought of the comments. The young girl who wrote, "You made me feel like I'm not ugly just because I have a sty." The older woman who said, "I wish someone like you existed when I was growing up." So she agreed. The campaign's slogan, "This is what surviving looks like." Despite all the media buzz and new direction, Brooke's heart was still healing. Every morning she still paused, before looking in the mirror. Some days she could face it. Others, she looked away. Her right eye's vision plateaued at 20/40ths. She could function, read, film again, but it was never quite the same. She now wore glasses when editing videos or reading close-up. The drooping lid improved slightly over months of steroid treatment and physical therapy, but the asymmetry remained. She debated surgery. Dr. Levin had explained that a cosmetic correction, blepharoplasty, could lift the lid. It wouldn't be perfect, but it would restore balance. The problem? It would cost around $6,000 out of pocket. Insurance called it elective. That word made her blood boil. She had nearly lost her eye to an infection that required ICU care. She had spent 7 days in a hospital room, staring at a ceiling, wondering if she'd ever see again. But fixing the visible aftermath, the part she had to carry every day, elective, that, Brooke realized, was the other story no one talked about. The broken system, the financial trauma that followed physical trauma. She decided to talk about that too. In her next video, she held up her hospital bill, blurred the account details, but left the numbers clear. $47,310 before insurance, $11,210 still due, $6,000 for eyelid repair, not covered. She looked straight into the lens. This is what it costs to survive a mistake in America. The video went viral. Again, this time it wasn't just influencers commenting, it was ER nurses, medical students, young adults without insurance, single moms, cancer survivors, people who had to choose between prescriptions and rent. In the storm of reactions, something happened that shocked Brooke. A GoFundMe started. BRN, T by her, B, a follower named Marissa, who had watched every one of Brooke's skincare videos since 2021. B, Ook initially wanted to shut it down. She didn't want pity. BRB, T Marissa posted, "You taught me how to love my skin. Let us help you love yours again." Bar first. Less than 72 hours, the fundraiser hit $20,000. B, Ook cried when she saw it. N, T, because of the money, though the relief was overwhelming, but because she realized people cared, not just about her content, but about her. 6 months after the ICU, Brooke stood in front of her camera again, same ring light, same background, but a very different Brooke. She wasn't hiding behind the lens anymore. She spoke slowly, confidently. "Hi again. I used to think I needed to be perfect to be valuable. That one bump could ruin everything. I was wrong." She paused. "This face has been through hell and back, and I've never been prouder to wear it." She smiled, uneven but radiant. "I'm not going back to the old content, not really. I'll still do beauty, still talk skincare, but now I'll talk about the pressure, the fear, the health, the system, the survival." She picked up a small compact mirror and held it up to the camera. "Because this is the new face of beauty.